Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into some really cool stuff that you've been working on.
Oh, great.
The relationship between technological advancement and this really interesting idea you call human analog strength.
Yeah.
You've even put together a spreadsheet and some notes.
I have.
Honestly, I'm really impressed.
Well, it's been a really fascinating area to explore.
Okay.
I'm really excited to dig into your work and see what we can uncover.
Well, you've charted out this thing you call technological value over time.
Right.
And you didn't just start with the computer age.
Yeah.
You went all the way back to 600 BC.
So-
Starting with Japan and then going global.
Yeah. It's a unique approach for sure.
Yeah, and it looks like technological value,
Mm-hmm.
at least according to your chart, really takes off after the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
Those numbers get huge as we move towards the future.
They do.
But before we get too far, maybe we should step back a little.
Okay.
What exactly do you mean by technological value?
That's a good question. And it's really key to what we're talking about here.
All right.
I mean, it's not just about how many gadgets we have.
Right.
It's really about how much power humans can exert through technology.
Okay.
So think of it this way.
All right.
How much impact can a single person have on the world?
That makes sense.
You know?
It's like the difference between a person pushing a cart and a steam engine pulling a train, right?
Exactly.
You use that analogy in your notes, and I thought it was perfect
It's a good one.
to really get that point across.
The steam engine dramatically increased the amount of work a single person could do.
Right.
And that's really what we're talking about with technological value.
Yeah.
How much our tools amplify our ability to change the world around us.
So it's not just about the tools themselves. It's
Mhm.
about the effects they have.
Yeah,
How much they change things.
exactly.
Okay, so back to your spreadsheet. You've marked out these specific historical moments.
Mm-hmm.
The start of rice cultivation in Japan, the arrival of firearms, the Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
What made you pick those?
Well, each of those events represents a really significant jump in technological value.
Okay.
They fundamentally change how humans interacted with the world,
Okay.
and they increased our ability to produce and consume.
Right.
Take rice cultivation, for example.
Okay.
That development allowed for much greater population density and led to entirely new social structures.
Wow, you're right. I hadn't even thought of it like that.
Yeah,
Just growing a new crop can have such a ripple effect
totally.
throughout history.
And then when you look at the impact of firearms,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
that changed warfare forever.
Completely.
It shifted power dynamics
Mhm.
and ultimately led to the rise of nation states as we know them today.
Okay, so big changes.
Yeah.
Big jumps in technological value. Got it.
Exactly.
But then you bring in this whole other idea,
Right.
human analog strength.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
Well, you defined it in your notes as our ability to create and survive without technology,
Yeah.
which I think is a great way to put it.
Okay.
It's the baseline of what humans can achieve without any fancy tools or gadgets.
So like our core strength, our ability to adapt and solve problems.
Exactly.
Using our brains and our hands.
It's about resilience,
Um,
resourcefulness, and creativity.
I like it.
Yeah.
And it's a really important concept to consider alongside technological value
I agree.
because it raises the question.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on, before we jump ahead.
Okay.
There's one more thing about this spreadsheet that I have to ask about.
Okay. Go ahead.
This formula you have where technological value basically doubles every century.
Right.
Now, I know you said there's no hard data to back that up,
That's true.
but
But it's a way to represent the feeling we all have
yeah,
that technology is accelerating.
exactly.
And
It feels like things are changing faster and faster all the time.
They are.
My phone has more computing power than the spaceship that landed on the moon.
I know, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Your formula, even if it's not scientifically precise,
Right.
captures that subjective experience
Yeah.
of living in an era of just rapid technological advancement.
I'm with you. It's an interesting way to think about it.
Okay, good.
But you were about to say something about human analog strength and this whole idea of technology accelerating.
I was
Yeah.
So with technology constantly evolving and becoming more and more powerful,
Mm,
it makes us wonder what happens to our human analog strength.
right.
Do we become so reliant on our gadgets
Yeah. Do we get weaker in some ways
that we lose those core abilities?
as technology gets stronger?
Right.
Or do we just find new ways to express those abilities?
That's one of the big questions that you've raised in your notes.
Okay.
And it's not the only one.
Oh, boy.
You also ask if technology could get so advanced that it throws our entire economic and social systems out of whack.
Yeah. It is a pretty big thought.
Yeah, and we've already seen how automation is changing the job market.
Right.
And artificial intelligence is only going to accelerate that.
Yeah, what happens if whole industries become obsolete practically overnight?
It's a valid concern, and you go even further,
Yeah.
asking how we balance the benefits of technology with the potential downsides.
Right.
Like, what about environmental impact
Oh, yeah, of course.
and inequality? Will everyone benefit from these advancements?
Yeah.
Or will the gap between the haves and have-nots just get wider?
You're really getting to the heart of the issue here.
Well,
I mean, it's easy to get caught up in all the cool new gadgets and possibilities.
right.
But we have to think about the consequences, too.
I think that's what I find so compelling about your approach.
Well, thank you.
You're not just celebrating technological progress.
Right.
You're really wrestling with the big questions,
Yeah.
the ethical dilemmas, the potential pitfalls.
Well, I have to give you credit. Your spreadsheet really helped me to visualize some of those pitfalls.
Oh, good.
Remember when we were talking about different future scenarios? Well, you actually plot out a few of them on your chart.
Yeah, those are always fun to think about.
Okay, so in one scenario, you imagine a future where a tiny group of people control all the really advanced technology. That sounds a little scary to me.
Yeah, I can see why that scenario would be concerning.
Yeah.
It raises questions about power imbalances and, access to resources.
Right.
And who really gets to benefit from these big technological leaps forward.
Yeah, it's like if only a few people had the keys to the internet.
Exactly.
Or, controlled all the robots.
Yeah, it would be a huge shift in power dynamics.
For sure.
And I think it just underscores the importance of making sure that these advancements benefit everyone.
Right, not just a select few.
Right. All of humanity.
Okay, so that's the dystopian side.
Yeah.
But you've also got some more optimistic scenarios.
I do.
Like one where we actually solve those big challenges, population growth, resource scarcity, climate change, with the help of technology.
Right. In this scenario, technology becomes this tool for solving problems, for creating a more sustainable and equitable world.
I like that.
It's a vision of progress that doesn't come at the expense of the planet.
Right.
Or future generations.
But you also mentioned that this might require some pretty radical shifts in how we think about society, right?
Well, you suggest we may need to rethink our assumptions about economic growth, consumption patterns, and even the definition of progress itself.
So it's not just about inventing new gadgets.
Right.
It's about using technology to create a different kind of world.
Exactly.
One that's more in balance with nature and ourselves.
And that raises some interesting questions.
Yeah, what are they?
Could technology help us to, decouple economic growth from resource depletion? Could it help us to live more fulfilling lives with less stuff?
Okay.
Could it foster greater cooperation and empathy across cultures?
Wow, those are big questions.
They are.
It's like you're saying that technology could change not just what we do, but who we are, how we relate to each other. Yeah.
And how we define a good life.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that technology isn't just a neutral tool.
Okay.
It shapes our values, our beliefs, and ultimately our destinies.
As you're talking, I keep thinking about this note you wrote about your own experience with technology. You talked about feeling both wonder and excitement as you've witnessed all these advancements throughout your life.
Right.
I have to admit, I feel that way too.
I think it's a pretty common sentiment.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in a really extraordinary time.
Yeah.
We've seen things that were once the stuff of science fiction become reality.
It's true.
And it's both exhilarating and a little bit daunting.
Totally. It's like we're living through a real-time science fiction novel.
I know.
But sometimes it's hard to even wrap my head around it all. I mean, my grandpa grew up without even a television.
Wow.
And now I've got this device in my pocket that can connect me to anyone in the world and access almost all human knowledge.
It's incredible. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, what will the next 50 years bring?
Yeah.
What will the world look like when today's children are adults?
It's exciting.
It is.
And a little bit scary to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really makes you think about the future, doesn't it?
It does. And it brings us back to that intriguing calculation in your spreadsheet. Technological value doubling every century.
Right.
Even if it's a subjective measure, it highlights how fast things are changing.
Yeah, for sure.
And that rapid acceleration prompts a fascinating question.
Okay.
One you've touched upon in your notes.
Okay.
If technological value keeps doubling, What does that mean for our perception of time itself?
Whoa, I hadn't even thought about that.
Right.
Will time feel different if the pace of change keeps increasing?
It's a mind-bending concept.
It is.
If every generation experiences a completely different technological landscape, could decades start to feel like centuries? I mean, think about how much has changed just in the last 20 years.
It's been a whirlwind.
It has. We went from clunky cell phones to smartphones.
Right.
Social media exploded.
Yeah.
Self-driving cars went from science fiction to reality.
I know, it's hard to keep up.
And if that pace of change continues, it could have profound implications for how we plan, how we make decisions, even how we understand our place in history.
So it's not just that technology is changing, it's that the way we experience time might be changing too?
Exactly.
That's deep.
It is, and it makes me wonder, what does this all mean for the concept of a generation?
Oh, interesting.
Will generational divides become even more pronounced? If the rate of technological change keeps accelerating?
Yeah. Will we even be able to relate to people who grew up just a few decades before or after us?
Right.
Will we be living in completely different worlds, even if we're just a generation apart?
It's definitely something to ponder, and I think it highlights the importance of understanding these trends.
Okay.
You know, being aware of how technology is shaping not just our lives, but our very perception of the world.
Well, you've definitely given us and our listeners a lot to think about.
I hope so.
This whole idea of human analog strength, the accelerating pace of technological change, the potential impact on our perception of time. It's been an incredible journey.
I think the credit goes to our listener for sparking such a fascinating conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
Their work is truly thought-provoking and inspiring.
I couldn't agree more. You've given us a whole new way to look at the relationship between technology and humanity.
Well, thank you.
And it's clear that the future is full of possibilities, both exciting and challenging.
The future is unwritten.
That's true.
And it's up to all of us to shape it.
I like that.
By understanding the forces at play. By asking tough questions.
Yeah.
And by embracing both the wonder and the responsibility that comes with technological advancement.
Absolutely.
We can create a future that benefits all of humanity.
Beautifully said. And to our listener, thank you for sharing your insights with us.
Yes, thank you so much for inspiring this conversation.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
We can't wait to see where your curiosity takes you next.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.